once again, welcome here. And I'm pleased to draw your attention to our latest publication dedicated to the motor insurance market. You have it on your desks. You are, in fact, its first readers. So in my presentation, I will not talk very much about, don't talk very much about figures, because you will find them all in the report. Is no use to consume time with this. I have thought that maybe we should get a flavor of the trends of 2015 in the motor insurance business in this area. And when I'm saying this area, it means the Central and Eastern Europe, the Southeastern Europe, and the ex-Soviet country, the CIS space. Very briefly, the Central Eastern Europe started well last year. In fact, almost all the economies in the area reported a positive trend in GDP. In average, we can talk about over 3% growth in 2015, and in almost all countries, there were reported a significant increase in the domestic demand, meaning, among others, also an increase in the car sales. The same goes for the Southeastern Europe, especially for Turkey. And as far as Turkey is concerned, it's interesting to say that last year it was really paradise of the car sailors, I think, because if you are looking to the figures, you will see that with almost 1 million units sold last year only for passenger cars and light commercial vehicles, Turkey is almost equaling the entire CE, so there are big numbers here. Not the same happened in the CIS region. That countries were confronted with big difficulties born by the political situation in Russia, by the volatility in all the region, by the falling oil prices, and there are economies which are strongly dependent on the oil prices. So they were confronted with the recession period, with the fall in the purchasing power of the citizens, and of course this was seen also in the insurance field, in the car sales, and in the motor insurance field especially, as you will see. Overall, despite the increasing car sales in the CE and in Turkey, it is still valid a not so pleasant affirmation, meaning that fleets are aging, which is not good for insurance in general, and especially when we are thinking to the casco line, to the motor hull line, no? There are not very comprehensive statistics available on this issue, but I have mentioned here some examples which speaks for themselves very well. It is enough to see that in a country as Poland, for example, which is the leading country in the area, we can say, at least in terms of insurance, they have less than 10% of the entire national fleet made of cars old from 0 to 5 years. The percentage of old cars is very high. Over 30% are older than 20 years, and there is also a very large slice of cars of about 25 to 30 years, which is very much. And it is challenging both in terms of road safety and also in terms of claims, of course. And the number of insurable cars, let's say so, in the motor hull line is decreasing, no? Overall, these are the trends for the last 5 to 6 years in the region. You can see that 2015 brought a change of trend. We are seeing figures increasing after a long time of oscillation and some falling years. And of course, motor insurance lines are holding a very, very large part of the market in the region, especially in the very young markets of the region. But overall, in average, MTPL, as you can see, holds the lion's share in the portfolio with over 30% of the business. Motor hull is somewhere close to 20%. And also in the claims. Almost 40% of the claims are coming from the MTPL line and 25, I think, from the motor hull line, which is very much. We are talking about percentages in the non-life business, of course. Here we have two graphs showing the growth rates in the region. And you will see there is a group of countries which saw very interesting growth rates, almost remembering by the happy times before crisis when the double digit was the rule in the region. But there are also some examples of decreasing market. And the most interesting, let's say so, remains Croatia for the second year, where after the tariffs liberalization in MTPL, prices went down in average by about 15–17%, and the market was going down sharply. On the other hand, where the market went up, the main reasons were tariffs increase and car sales increase. It's interesting also to say for the motor hull line that Bulgaria is the only country in the region where motor hull was the market driver. So the best dynamic was registered on the motor hull, not on the MTPL line. It's an exception. Oh, I'm sorry. Claims. Claims are also growing everywhere. And what is noteworthy is that in many countries, claims are growing faster than premiums. And if the extreme case, let's say, remains also Croatia, where premiums went down by about 30%, while claims went up in the same time, so the discrepancy is growing. Also, markets where the premium trend was positive has recorded a significantly higher increase in claims. So for the balance of this segment, there is a challenge. Not the same is on the motor hull, where generally technical results are better than on the MTPL. And in some cases, the markets have also recorded a decrease in claims. To mention also the exception, the happy exceptions from the rules, I can say that Bulgaria and Montenegro are the only markets where the MTPL claims went down last year. So they are changing the trends. All in all, we have to deal with a very competitive environment, especially on the mandatory line, on the MTPL, with challenging and challenges arising from the bodily injuries area, mostly because of the unpredictability of the expenses. In some cases, some changes were made in taxation, and maybe the most relevant is the case of the Czech Republic, where new taxes were introduced for MTPL operators. And in many cases, there were made market corrections to the market initiated or initiated by the country supervising authorities, which led to tariff increase, but it's obviously that customers were not happy with this. Above all, it's worth looking to the world, to the larger world, the more mature market where technologies are already changing the landscape in the motor business. And it's easy to understand that sooner or later these changes will have to come also in our area, and it will be quite challenging in terms of costs, in terms of legacy, in terms of changing in the corporate culture and so on. So it is never ending, let's say. In the CIS area, Russia, of course, is the biggest market. Practically, we can say that in terms of figures, what happens in Russia is giving the trend in the entire CIS because of this difference of size. As everybody knows, Russia had some hard times lately in terms of the economy. This was driving also different difficulties for people. Citizens have less money to spend. The sales of cars went down at a significant amount. They decreased very much. Practically, as I remember well, there were about 8,000 to 9,000 cars less sold, that's close to the million, as compared with the previous years. And despite this, because of an increase in tariffs which occurred in April, the MTPL market saw some increase in premiums. In fact, was the only line which helped the entire market to have a very, very small increase in premiums. But they also have challenges to deal with because the compensation limits were also raised. Many people are not buying any more MTPL, so the number of uninsured cars increased very much. A difference of about 3 million in the number of valid contracts, 3 million contracts less, says something about the trends in the market. But in the same time, the market players are trying to push things ahead, at least in technical terms, in market conduct and so on. And they are starting to improve their own procedures. And maybe the best thing that happened in 2015 was the introducing of the electronic issuance of the MTPL policies, which is very important. No need to say that Ukraine, which is the second market in the area as in dimension terms, has experienced very, very hard times with an immense inflation, which meant that compensation limits and the indemnities per accident had to be raised. In fact, they are now double as compared with the previous year. The currency devaluation, which was significant, also caused problems with the costs for claims, because spare parts are most of them imported, so the currency is very important. And trying to improve the market conduct and to avoid situation when the insurers try to avoid payments towards the customer, the authority introduced an additional guarantee fee, which needs to be paid by the companies who have a percentage of claims paid below 35% of the premium amount, considering this that such a company probably is avoiding some payments and then should be paying to the guarantee fund higher sum, so to avoid the future problems. Overall, all these markets have experimented not an easy year. Last year, figures are going down in general. Many of them are making changes, important changes also in the legislation with the new rules on claims assessment, for instance, in Kazakhstan, with the raising compensation limits in many of the countries in the CIS, but also with introducing the direct compensation in Azerbaijan or entering the green card system. But we will find out tomorrow more about this from the source directly. An attempt to introduce the amicable report in Armenia and so on. So probably beyond the current economical challenges, what is the most important thing in this area is that things are changing for good, are going forward, and the markets are trying to modernize and to adopt the European standards of operating, which is a good thing. No need to talk about Turkey. We had a comprehensive image. Just to say that in the southeastern Europe, obviously, is the biggest, the most relevant market, and the most interesting. However, it still has also the problems which are common to the other countries in the area, meaning a need of better profitability in the motor business. Overall, probably the common trends are mostly related to the high competitivity, which is still lasting in these markets, on the MTPL side especially, which is driving a battle on prices, on tariffs, and of course problems of profitability, raising claims, especially the unsolved problem of the bodily claims, bodily injury claims unpredictability, and uneven system of assessment, and of the figures which are, for instance, for the same case judged by two courts are finally indemnities very different to pay. And in the not so close but getting closer future, the need to improve from a technology point of view, which raises questions about the resources needed, about the determination needed, about what these markets are willing to obtain from the future. All these things and many others are in the report you have on your tables. I wish you to find there, or I wish me to, that you find there everything you are interested in. If not, you can always ask us for other things. Thank you very much.